Why, hello there! How are you today? Awesome Soul here, and I am back with some more Robocraft Robot reviews. This time, I've brought out a Hovercraft, and this is the Midnight's Aegis by Quattro. So, what do we have here exactly? Well, it is a fairly simple build. Lasers and a module, but it is a disc shield module, which is actually rather nice, I feel, for a laser build. As generally, if you do want to play one of these things, you don't want to get too close to people. You kind of want to stay at mid-range constantly, and with a hovercraft, you are able to do that fairly easily, just because it is such a fast movement type. One of the fastest, actually. Actually, is it... Well, I guess I was going to say one of the fastest ground, but technically skis are faster. But, I mean, they're still skis, so who really uses those? It is actually a good point there. Oh, that's interesting. It would appear that I have been cored, and all of my movement is completely gone. Though, to be fair, that did leave me with 5% health, so maybe that was just a fluke? I don't know, we'll see. Where was I at? Oh yeah, people not really using... there we go. I thought somebody else was gonna leave them alone. But, yeah. So, not really a lot of people use skis, and that's very odd. Kind of a random tangent, but if you guys have been using skis, or have been trying to use skis, what exactly are your experiences with them? Is it easy enough to build with? Are they too difficult right now? I kind of feel that they're really unused. But anyways, back on topic with the bot at hand. So far, it does seem to be a little bit on the light side as far as armoring goes, but like I said, it is packing only lasers, which is a mid-range weapon. So I can excuse it there. Certainly not a bad thing, necessarily. But what is a bad thing is this coring factor. That's the second or third time that that's happened. And that's really odd. It seems to be happening because of that rail guy there. I guess to be fair though, it is a damage boost only build, where they basically sacrificed everything and are just going with the damage boost. So, perhaps that's causing a problem. But afterwards we will go through this thing in the garage and see if we can't find out what might be causing that. What else can we point out about this thing? Oh yes, I should go into the stats. So, as to be expected, this thing is going 185 due to the base speed of the hovers, but it is going, I think it's 9.6% for the speed boost, which is respectable, especially with already a relatively high base speed. You are going to be getting a fair bit of use out of that measly 9%. Whereas if you strapped it on a mech, you wouldn't really be getting that much of a boost. Damage-wise, this thing is sitting just under 40% damage boost. So quite respectable there, especially when it comes to having lasers as a primary. You do want to have at least, I'd say, 40%, just to make them fairly effective, because otherwise, even the biggest ones seem like they are not really doing much. They're kind of tickling the opponent. Ah, damn. I was going to try and save that guy with a disc shield, but kind of wanted to set it up properly, and at times it can be a little bit difficult, especially if you want to try and get it on a proper angle or something like that. We seem to be running into this guy quite a lot, though to be fair, I think they have a lot of people in their back lines that don't really seem to be coming up that often. Yeah, there's that guy. Got our revenge for coring us twice. Ooh, that's not good. One hit there to the center of the bot, and I felt this thing just drop out of the sky. Yeah, this guy is a bit of a problem. Now, I don't know if that's... a problem with the bot, or if it's a problem with facing off against something that's incredibly high damage. I'm leaning more towards it's a problem with the way the center of this bot is set up. What else can we get into here? Now that we've covered the speed, we've also covered the weaponry and the boost. I guess the... I was thinking if I needed to set that disc shield up, but no, as usual, I do not. What was I getting into? Oh yes, the armoring of this thing. Obviously we've pointed out the fact that this thing has a few problems being cored. But on top of that, the electroplates don't seem to be doing much. Certainly hasn't really saved us from being cored. But one of the other things that probably would be a good idea is... Ooh, there we go, yet again, being cored. Oh, we've lost the disc shield too. I was going to try and set it up while we make our daring escape, but nope, not going to happen. But yes, what I was trying to get into was the armor, or the light armor blocks that this thing has sprinkled throughout. Honestly, I would say your best bet is to get, just get rid of it entirely. Really, that's because of a couple of things. First thing comes to mind, going back to the whole lasers needing a relatively high damage boost if you want to have them as your main weapon. So if you get rid of that, you're going to lower your CPU quite a bit. And as a ground bot, you're not really getting that much out of them. I know Hovercraft are affected by weight more than they used to be, but really if you're packing this many hovers and you're already on a fairly small frame to begin with, not really the best. See if we can't get the umbrella. There we are. Except now, everything's gone. Lovely. Pro tip, by the way, if you aim at like a top edge of a cliff, you can kind of umbrella your disc shield. It's useful in a very select few situations, but it is still very good to have. But yeah, as I usually say when it comes to light armor, you're better off with regular armor in almost every case. The only reason you're going to want to use it is for very niche flyer builds, and that's about it. Despite this thing's few downfalls, it is a fairly solid bot, as we've seen here. And lately, laser builds have been kind of lacking, so it's kind of good to see them making a comeback, or at least people trying to make them have a bit of a comeback. But yes, as I always do, let's go from here into the garage bay. So, here we are, back in the garage bay. But before we get into that, I just would like to clarify that this bot is made by QuantroTRM. I kind of changed up the way I do these, where I have the YouTube comment on my second screen, and I was like, oh, you know, it'll have everything I need there. So I glance over, I'm like, okay, bot name, there we go, and, uh-oh, where's the username? And there was no username. So I kind of just went off of the YouTube name, and I kind of panicked. I called it Quattro. Apologies for that. But anyways, actually getting into the build here. So, as I have kind of gone on about throughout this whole video, is basically the theme here is cutting down on your CPU. Or at least that's kind of what I was getting at the very end of it. So, let's jump in and see what exactly cutting out some things will do to this bot. First culprit here, let's get rid of these electroplates. They're not really protecting a whole lot. I mean, they are kind of protecting the disc shield, but it does actually have a decent health pool in itself. So let's see what happens once these are gone. Brings it from a... Oh, actually, didn't have mirror mode on. There we go. So, 39% to 42% damage boost already, which is actually quite a big jump. See what happens once we get these taken out. And that goes to a 43. So as you can see, it is climbing quite a bit already, and you're not really losing all that much weight. Besides that, though, you're also getting more health boost, which is pretty good. It was also fairly low. So I think, honestly, the benefits you're going to get out of this are a lot better than really having them. Because what are the benefits? I guess what you would have is you can fly higher with less hover blades. But I mean, you should already have enough to fly properly anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much there. Now, let's go ahead and crack this thing open, as we said, to see what happens with all these hover blades. Apologies for the terrible autopsy job I'm doing here. So that's connected up to there, that's not bad. This is... ah, I see. Okay, so you've done a whole lot of triforcing on this build, which, as you've kind of seen throughout the video, it's not as powerful as it used to be. It's barely powerful at all, to be quite frank. It's more of a detriment than anything else. Because, you know, cores are cool, but they don't function the way they used to. So it seems like as soon as the disc shield goes, you lose a huge amount of functionality that this bot has. As I was saying, the disc shield has a pretty decent health, but it's not enough to take a rail shot, as we've clearly seen. Even just a regular rail shot would probably be enough to take this thing out. Or most of the things around it, at least. So, I guess on this note, your best bet is just to get rid of the triforcing. I know that might sound counterintuitive if you've been around in the game for a long time, but honestly, having a huge amount of armor is probably your best bet. Because your damage is going to feed from here to here to here, and it's going right into the core, which is kind of cool and all, but instead of having the damage go from here to here directly, it'll go from here and then slowly make its way through here to here. Though what still is powerful is rod forcing, where it's not really needed on this bot as it's fairly small and compact anyways, but if you want to know what that is, basically it's in pretty much all of my other videos on this series, so check those out if you haven't already. I see you've got those tucked away, which is rather nice, adding some extra armor options. But besides that, let's take a look at the undercarriage. What do we have here? So, these hovers, that's not connected to the front, which is good, and it looks like this hover is not connected to the front also, which is nice. A really big mistake that I've seen a lot of hovercraft do is they mount their hover blade, instead of here, they'll mount it here. And of course, this is the front of the bot, so that's where your damage is usually going to end up, meaning you'll lose your hover blade relatively fast. And the last thing I would like to talk about is... okay, here. No, that's good. I thought maybe this was connected to that side, but no, you have it connected properly. Or, well, better, I guess. There is no real proper way, it's just there's better ways for most situations. Besides that, though, I can't really think of too many other options for this build. Perhaps... I guess one option maybe would be to downsize the hovers, and then you could fit more inside for more redundancy. And that way, once you have even more cubes in there, you'd still have... well, I guess that's not really needed, so never mind then. I mean, it's fairly solid as is. Really just, you need to get rid of the light armor and hollow, or get rid of the hollow sections and armor this thing up. And I guess on top of that, you'd kind of end up at the same CPU range if you take out the light cubes. But anyways, I know this has kind of been sort of long and drawn out. This is more of me kind of thinking as I go along, so apologies for that. But anyways, with that guys, I of course have been the Awesome Soul. I thank you all so very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.